Special thanks to my latest Patreon supporter, Legal Kimchi. What a guy. It's finally here! Spelljammer in 5th edition. Wizards of the Coast released their announcement trailer yesterday, April 21st, and it is jam-packed with classic content from the 2nd edition days of the setting. They even named the box set Spelljammer: Adventures in Space, reusing the name of the original 2nd edition box set that launched the setting and led us all to this moment right here. So let's dive in and look at some screenshots from the Spelljammer announcement video. I'm going to do my best to not speculate in this video because I only want to comment on things that I definitely recognize from the 2nd edition books. But I do need to speculate a little bit in the first screenshot. Here we see a spelljamming vessel in what I assume is the new Astral Sea. Aside from the ship, we see all of these giant spheres floating in space. Some people in groups I frequent have interpreted these as planets, but I think these are the crystal spheres from the classic Spelljammer lore. For those who don't know, the crystal spheres are basically supermassive spheres made of an unknown crystalline material. They contain within them entire universes or world spaces. So one sphere contains all of the Forgotten Realms. Another sphere contains all of Dragonlance. A sphere might contain all of your homebrew world, and so on. In classic Spelljammer, these spheres float together in the phlogiston, a flammable and infinite extension of the material plane. But they will likely float in the Astral Sea for 5th edition. When you hear names like Realm Space, Kryn Space, and Gray Space, these are the names of individual crystal spheres, and are based on the campaign world they contain. So, for example, the crystal sphere containing all of Exandria might be called Critter Space, or Roll Space, or something like that. My homebrew world, as another example, which has very few mammals, but many reptiles and dinosaurs and amphibians and fish and dragons, is called Scale Space for that same reason. In this second screenshot, we see a crew of characters engaged in the work of spelljamming. We have an astral elf sharpening a sword, a gif doing some deck work, and a Hadose who is just hanging out. We knew these races were coming because we saw them in a recent Unearthed Arcana, and it's real great seeing them brought to life in this video. Now, it's this third screenshot that really jumped out at me. Like, I audibly gasped when I saw it, and I was instantly excited in a way that I haven't been with previous 5th edition products. The reason for my excitement is that this is our first look at the Rock of Brawl in 5th edition. Someone in a Facebook group I'm on suggested that this was Stardock, a spaceport run by Githyanki that was mentioned in Dungeon of the Mad Mage, but I would like to point to this image from Amazon, which clearly shows Rock of Brawl right there on the map. There's a lot to unpack on the map, locations and other things, and I think that will be its own video. But let me just say right now, we got the Happy Beholder Tavern, which means Large Luigi is all but confirmed. Move over, Xanathar. Look my man up. As for this fourth screenshot, I only included it because it basically confirms that gravity is local to a ship, which is how it operated in classic Spelljammer as well. We already know this is the case because the spelljamming helm rules from Dungeon of the Mad Mage tell us so, but I think it's nice to see it illustrated here. This is a good one. It shows us the return of the squid ship, which likely means many of the other classic weirdo ships from Spelljammer will also return. Keep in mind that this is not the first appearance of the squid ship in 5th edition. The ruined ship known as the Scavenger from Dungeon of the Mad Mage was a squid, and so was the Morkoth, a sea ship used by the Kraken Society in the Storm King's Thunder adventure. We also see the return of the Kindori space whales in this screenshot. These mostly gentle giants live exclusively in space, where they feed on the light produced by stars and suns and other space bodies. For the most part, these are one of those creatures a DM might use to establish ambiance, to show something cool to the players, and to emphasize the vast and majestically alien nature of wild space. Which is pretty much how they're being used in the announcement video. Super stoked to see them return. And here we see a nautiloid that is very different from the nautiloids in the classic lore. Just like the nautiloid from the Baldur's Gate 3 video game, this ship is clearly organic in nature, as opposed to the classic nautiloids, whose tentacles were just carved wooden battering rams. Personally, I think biological is the better choice for this specific ship because most people assumed the tentacles could move anyway, and it was always a bit of a disappointment to learn that they were just solid wood. We also get a look at a very cool monster in the upper left corner there, the Aster Eater. Anyway, the Aster Eaters, are basically rock-like beholders Aster Eaters are basically rock-like beholders who look like floating asteroids in space, and they lack eye stalks with which to attack their enemies, relying on their mouths. Seeing them return is very cool because they were always a favorite monster of mine. In the classic lore, Aster Eaters were pretty unintelligent but highly malevolent, and the entirety of their threat came from their appetite for sentient flesh and their ability to swallow humanoids whole. They would hide in asteroid fields and attack any ships that came close, looking to turn a crew member or two into an easy meal. Always a good encounter to spring on unsuspecting players who are getting a little too comfortable with the environment of wild space. Oh, and now we're getting into the dragons. This, according to Chris Perkins, is a solar dragon. I don't know if that's just what he called them in the moment or if their name is being changed, but this solar dragon is also the sun dragon from classic lore. In 2nd edition, they were one of 3 dragon species that lived in wild space and were typically good in alignment. Sun dragons live on the sun and are the traditional enemies of the moon dragons. But get this, they spit fireballs as their breath weapon, which we may or may not be seeing in this screenshot. Could be a lens flare, yeah, but it could be a fireball. Either way, the space dragons are coming back to Dungeons & Dragons at last. I could not be more excited because they were always my favorite dragons. Finally, we come to our last screenshot from the announcement video. I thought at first that the dragons in this screenshot might be stellar dragons, which are the largest of the 3 space dragons, but seeing it in a still screenshot tells me that these are still sun dragons or solar dragons. We see the same gossamer wings, the same flippery arms, and the same head fins. The only thing that has changed is the color palette of their surroundings, but they still look great. We also see one of the dead gods thought to float through the astral plane. These were originally introduced to Dungeons & Dragons as part of the Planescape setting, and it makes sense for them to make an appearance in 5th edition Spelljammer now that a good portion of the campaign setting is set in the Astral Sea. There's a lot of lore speculation I could get into with these, but again, this video is not about speculation. Needless to say, I think these will be a favorite for dungeon masters who enjoy running truly epic campaigns. And that's it for my screenshots from the announcement video. If you're not already subscribed, click the subscribe button so you can catch my next few videos, where I will be breaking down some more classic content that appeared in Wizards of the Coast's What is Spelljammer Adventures in Space video, and other bits of classic lore they snuck into some recent releases, like the monster previews. Don't forget to click like if you enjoyed the video or found it interesting, and check me out at patreon.com/unimportanthero if you want to support the channel financially. If you can't support the channel financially, no worries at all. Just share the video to your favorite social media platform to help the channel grow. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next time in Wild Space.